In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Ritz Furniture specializes in quality furniture for affordable prices. Our extensive inventory highlights top brands and provides everything you could ever want. You can count on us for kitchen, dining, bedroom, and living room furniture, no matter what the style is you have in mind. Stop in with your family and look at our amazing selection to find the perfect fit for your home. Contact us today to see how we can make a difference in your home.
Welcome into Inside the Smoky Mountain Conference, presented by Team FYN Sports. Jake West, along with Brandon Stevens. Brandon, we're entering into Week 8 of the NTHSAA football season, and it's getting to feel like football weather. I believe you woke up to some snow this morning.
Absolutely. I think I have about a half inch of snow. I live in between 3,600 and 4,000 feet above sea level here in Cherokee, and usually you see me outside, but not today.
Yeah, it's a little bit chilly. Brandon, let's talk about the NTHSAA RPI rankings here as I get them pulled up. Let's see. There we go. Starting off at the top, Mountain Airy, undefeated once again. They're up top. Mountain Heritage hasn't played football since the Hurricane. 4-0. They're in second. Murphy with their win over Robbinsville, 6-1. Third, Eastern Randolph 4. Mitchell, East Wilkes, Starmount, Corbian, Robbinsville at 2-5 is sitting in ninth because of their opponent's winning percentage and their opponent's winning percentage. Bishop McGinnis 5-2 is 10th. You see Cherokee and Hayesville at 15 and 16. Andrews at 18. Their opponent's winning percentage is 0.29. That's what's got them so far down. You drop down to 28, and you've got Swain County. Rosman rounds it out at 36. So what's the most surprising to you here, Brandon, in the 1A West RPI standing so far?
I really don't see anything that surprises me as much. Maybe Mitchell. I didn't think that they were probably as well fortified, but as they have been in the past, and maybe in Allegheny, because usually like Allegheny, it's like a team that you meet in the first round that is a little weaker, and you dust them and they go on as high in the ratings. Somebody always when I was going to school at North Carolina and you discuss RPI, one of the analysts came to me and says, RPI, that stands for really poor indicators, because you got to play the games, but after you do and you measure up the strength of your opponents, that's about it. But nothing here really surprise you, because the typical teams that, if you're coming from the West and you want to go to a state championship, Eastern Randolph, Mount Airy, those are a couple of teams that have now been coming up, like some of those Surrey County teams that you see that once you're getting ready to move into the state playoffs. And of course, this is something that you really need to take a look at beginning now. I know coaches from Joseph Watson back to Sherman Holt and D. Walsh down to Chad McClure will tell you, we play them one game at a time, got to get ready for the state playoff. But down the way, it looks like the the Granite Bears are going to be one that you're going to have to, the defending state champions, you're going to have to move through and go on to the state championship. But again, nothing here really blows my hair back.
So you've got teams like Mountain Heritage and Mitchell. You don't know, what kind of those two teams are scheduled to play each other November 2nd, but you don't know with the hurricane and all the dates being moved around. We've got some local teams adding games, how it's going to shake out. But we do know the NCHSAA added an extra week between the playoffs, the start of playoffs, and the end of the regular season, and some of our teams took advantage of that. Swain County added back their game against Madisonville to the end of the season. That got flushed out because of the hurricane, and Robbinsville added a game at home against TC Robertson. So Robbinsville is actually going to end up playing more games than most of our local teams. They'll have an extra game in there because they didn't miss any. They didn't end up missing any games. That was going to be I think they were supposed to play Cherokee, but Cherokee and Robbinsville both had a bye, so they just played their bye week, and then they played the next week. So they didn't miss any games. They'll end up with an extra game, it looks like.
And I guess there's some advantages. So if you look at the advantages of because you do have that option. You can either, one, do nothing and just sit back and take it like an open date. Two, you can reschedule or you can schedule another game, or you can schedule a game that you missed, such as in the case of Swain County. They're trying to make sure that they can get that game in and not come out like with a 9-game record. And two, it's one that you'd like to have because I think that just giving opportunity for a team that's been shattered by the town's been shattered by the flood and that sort of thing, and get them back into a space where they can play football. That's kind of cool. So you make up some games, or you say, well, hey, we're just sitting around. Let's not let the players sit around and get idle before the state playoffs, and you keep them mobile. And then at the very bottom of the list, I think, for a school, it's extra revenue, to go out and from concessions to tickets to whatever you get. So it keeps the community busy on a Friday night in that time of the year. So I think those are the couple things. But on the other hand, the cons to me is like, all right, depending on how you are health-wise, or depending on how you are looking at where you're going to land in the state playoffs, I'd worry about risk of injuries or just not the right outcome coming out. You lose a game, you get injuries, and you lose players, and this is not the time going into that. So, there's some pros and cons to doing all that, but I think sometimes, depending on what your status is, could be good. In the case of Swain County, I think that would be a good thing to bring up, get that extra game and put it in, and have that on your records. And not saying like, oh, they're going to go in and just win over Madison County, but that does give you opportunity to pick up an extra game and get that 10th game, maybe a win in there, depending on how you've finished out the Smoky Mountain Conference.
Yeah, and on the flip side, if you add a team that with a good record, Robbinsville added TC Robertson. I think they're 4-1 right now.
Right.
Oh, and maybe it ends up bumping your RPI just a little bit more right there at the end of the season. It ends up getting you another home game or something like that. So, it's an all-time with the RPI. It's there's all kinds of ways that you have to play the game behind the scenes, just like Robbinsville scheduling Raven Gap last year to help them get that number 1 seed over Mount Airy so they could play that game at the Big Oaks. They lost that game, but still, the way RPI works, sometimes it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It can bump you up just a few more notches that you need. So the RPI is an interesting thing to try to wrap your head around, but we'll keep a watch on it in the coming weeks to try to see, who are the 30-something odd teams that are going to make it, and who's going to be left out, who's going to get home games. And we always seem to end up with a couple Smoky Mountain Conference teams playing each other in the first round, and it looks like it's going to end up pretty close to having that happen here again.
Let me ask a quick question because I gave up a long time ago trying to figure out how, if you play this team who's a little bit better than you, and then here you are,
Yeah.
and how this breaks out. And I ate a bologna sandwich versus you ate a cheeseburger, and so you're better than me because So can you give us like a 30-second or 60-second? How does RPI work? Because I think most of our viewers probably have a good understanding, and then I know that there are probably some others that just they want to, because they tune into us because they want to know who's going to win the football game Friday night or what we think.
Sure. The RPI, it's weighted by your win percentage, your opponent's win percentage, your opponent's win percentage. That was the numbers that we were just looking at. So it really does matter who you schedule and who you play. Everybody likes to get those Greenville Hurricane games for homecoming, but if you're playing a team that has no wins, that's going to go against your opponent's win percentage in that block, and it's going to bring you down. Whereas if you play a team like a Raven Gap that's undefeated and they play a strong schedule, because that comes into effect as well. The type of schedule that your opponents are playing, your opponent's winning percentage. Right. So, there's a lot of things to take into account when you're making a schedule. If you have those luxuries, I know a lot of teams in our area just take the games that they can get so that they can play 10 football games in a year. But it's interesting to look at. It's always fun to think about at this time of year. But let's talk about some football, Brandon.
Cool.
Some games played on the field. Hayesville 12, Swain 7, Cherokee 27, Andrews 0, Murphy 14, Robbinsville 7. Let's start with Hayesville and Swain. Hayesville gets their first conference win of the year, 12-7 on the road at Memorial Stadium in Swain County.
Man, I tell you what, that was, I think, both sides trying to find that footing on the field to get the offense to move, and not only just to move, but just to produce the numbers, get into touchdown town, as I say. Therein, I think that was just an incredible night for defense. The defense really goes to town, and when you keep both teams really just kind of encased below 20 points, and really this was a Swain County football game when it rolls out, because in the beginning Swain is moving the ball and beginning to do some things, but Jake, it's that incredible thing that we I think from the very beginning of this season to Swain County and knocking things out. Okay, penalties, yards. So scrap that for just a few seconds. But if you look on down the stat sheet and you see 5 fumbles for Swain County, that shot them in the foot, and especially when they drive down to I think it's about the 10-yard line, and you're first of all, Rocky Barber is the one who scored the touchdown to make it go up past Hazel, because they couldn't get the extra point. But getting down to about the 10-yard line, you fumble, they back you up, and then you fumble again, and it's done. You're toast. But there was a scoring opportunity to where Swain County could have been the winner in this football game. I think, again, defense really poured it on. I like Grady Lewis. That's a man right there. I mean, he's 260 pounds. But the thing about it is he's been forced to play at different positions on the field. He's fish out of water here, but he learns how to swim on land a little bit as running back, and now he's I think back at on defense and in the line and that sort of thing. But if you didn't see the film there, of course he has a tremendous stop on Dawson Devane that you look through. The other thing too is the passing yardage in this football game. There were I think about 118, 120 yards of passing that Hazel put out. but 70 of that came from that one big touchdown play that came through. Both these teams struggling to generate some offense. And, again, Swain County got 4 major players out, but still a guy that I like. He runs fast as lightning is Zeke Gillespie. And it's hard. It's going to be difficult to stop him. And again, a night that you think like you could probably get on the Swain County side of things. You think the way that things are going, you've got the lead. You're going to have your first win and your first conference win. Zeke Gillespie's doing some great things. It just folds up with the you got an interception, 5 fumbles. And of course 2 of those are recovered, Jake. But still, you've got 5 fumbles, and that's not good. So the bottom line, before I made the statement going into what I'm saying, it's just the old proverb: take care of the football, and that's not happening for Swain County.
Sure, you can tell just by looking there. 62 plays to 40, 12 first downs to 3, 2 penalties to Hayesville 7. If you just look at that box score right there, it looks like Swain County won this game going away. But Hayesville, they have found themselves in some gritty games so far this year, and they finally grind one out and take away a 12-7 victory against Swain County. So they showed their toughness. Trey Graves kind of got things going on the ground, 83 yards on 14 carries for him. They had the sophomore quarterback back there. Not the best night for him, but he had 97 yards passing. Michael Money came in, trick play, threw 1 pass for 24 yards. I think you said they had did they have a 66-yard pass?
Yeah, I was saying about 70, but that's the Michael Money pass that they got for the touchdown. So
yeah, so you've got some things to build on. Both these teams have a lot that they can take away from this game and build on and work towards this coming week. Hayesville's got a game at Cherokee. I was told that in times. Let me just pull up the message so that I don't get it wrong. Here it is. The years Hayesville has beat Swain under Chad McClure, they have also lost to Cherokee. So they never beat Swain and Cherokee in the same year under head coach Chad McClure. And Cherokee's coming off a big 27-0 win over Andrews. Well, where do you see this game going Friday night? We can talk about, Cherokee's great play against Andrews as we tie back into this football game here.
Well, let's just put it like it is. If you're going to talk history for a moment, those 2 teams have usually been fighting to stay out of the last place or the cellar. When they played, it's been a very passionate game. One team goes to another team's house and beats you by a couple of points, or there's a technicality that floats around. Now I think Cherokee's in good spot. They're in 4th place, 4-3, 1-1, and when you post up some good numbers like you see, like you're seeing here, I think usually we start out and you ask me who the big winner is. I think individual wise, you're leafing over him right now, Brandon Santiago. I like when you have a fella who's carrying the ball 11 yards per carry, give or take. Of course, the numbers come out 10.9, but and had a nice breakout play for 60 yards. I think he's doing some really good things, but also in that game, I still like to drop back and Jonathan Saylor. He was hitting almost 65-70% of his passes, 11 of 17, had long pass for 43, but 2 touchdowns in that. So look at that. So you've got a inside out black and white picture that's blending together the rush and the pass. And when you can have that in a good night, especially since playing a good conference team, Andrews, they've had their wits about them, but I don't think we had all players and all tumblers in place for that football game because Everett Tatham is not there. You had McClellan, who entered into the football game rolling things out. He not too bad slinging the ball around 6'11", but the yards just didn't pile up the way they did for Jonathan Saylor. And you saw a younger sophomore Dawson Panther even get into this football game as things were winding down, and you've got a shutout pending. So maybe the future of Cherokee football is in behind them. Still wanted to see some good speed out of Eli Aguilar. Not the most productive night there, averaging about 2 or 3 yards a carry, but only 12 touches in the night. And the other thing too, it looks like the Andrews defense stayed on the field quite a bit, wearing them down. So a couple of just different factors in that game. It's a good push for Cherokee to roll on out. But again, as you ask, I think Brandon Santiago is the guy that I would kind of push to say he's the big individual winner this week.
Yeah, I think. A lot to be said with Tatham being out. We've seen last year they didn't win a conference game when he was out. This year they get beat 27-0 when he's out. Not to take anything away from McClellan. Looks like he was, serviceable, 6 for 11, 33 yards. Just you miss what Tatham is able to do on the ground with his legs. McClellan looks like he only had 5 carries for 20 yards. And then you mentioned Aguilar, 12 carries, 32 yards. But Cherokee, no turnovers. And when they hold on to the football, they are a dangerous, dangerous offense. Saylor, 11 for 17, 161 yards. And then, like you mentioned, you've got – when this team gets 100 yards in the air and 100 yards on the ground out of when they get 100 yards passing from Saylor and then they get 100 yards on the ground from Santiago or Saylor himself, then they're a tough team to beat. And they've got the receivers in Luke Smith and Shiloh Woodson that they can go up one-on-one against anybody and come down with a pass. So it's just it's what you want to see if you're Coach Tim Hawkins. You see the tackles for loss adding up over here on the right side. They were getting penetration into the backfield. They also had an interception, 2 fumble recoveries, so they were forcing some turnovers. And, just you can't say it enough. Finally, a football game where the Braves held on to the football, and you see what happens when they hold on to the football. 27-0 victory over Andrews. They host Hayesville this week. What's your score prediction for that game? Hayesville at Cherokee.
Yeah, this one's a bit different. I've tried to look back a little bit on some of over the weekend, looking at some of the history there. I think if you can play another good if you're Cherokee and you play another good Andrews football game, depending on who's in the quarterback chair, what's kind of happening, and it looks like some things are solid. One for Cherokee going into this, and so I'll quit beating around the bush. I think you can almost come up with a similar score. I worked it out. And I think it's probably going to be about 24-7 Cherokee Braves.
I think this is going to be closer. I do think Cherokee wins because it is at Cherokee, but I think it's going to be closer. I think maybe we're seeing some of the Hayesville team that I thought we were going to see before the year started. They got Trey Graves going. He had 87-something yards last week. They need to get him eclipsing that century mark. And then they need to just take care of the football. They can't have turnovers. They can't, the interceptions are killing them. But they've just been behind the 8 ball this year. Much has Swain due to the fact of injuries. Hayesville, they've played about, seems like 27 different people at quarterback. Seems like they just plug and play whoever they can underneath center, and it's maybe they've found the guy, and maybe things are starting to pan out that way. But I think we see maybe more like 27 to 13 or something like that. That's my pick. Cherokee 27-13. I think it's close until halftime, and then Cherokee pulls away. They break a couple of long passes. But the secondary for Hayesville is pretty, it's pretty good. Michael Money, you don't want to throw his way very often. So if they do look his way and Hayesville's able to come up with some turnovers and put their offense back on the field, then you never know how this game could play out.
And I think the other key thing here is take care of the football on either side. The penalty factor, it hasn't been that bad, but just keep that down. Watch your the silly mistakes of an encroachment, and like everybody says, you can almost throw a flag every play and call it holding, but just the work on some things like that. But mostly here, take care of the football, and that's what Cherokee did. You do that again next week, and you win a prize. It's so.
Agreed. Andrews, we just looked at their stats. They had some turnovers. They get shut out. Let's see how many turnovers they had. I think 3 turnovers, an interception, 2 fumbles. Yeah. But they've got Robbinsville coming off of a close loss to Murphy. They've got Robbinsville in Valleytown on Friday night. Robbinsville looked like they were in control of that game, and they were in control of that game most of the way through on Friday night against Murphy. The pick 6, Cannon Brazil breaks through the line, reads the offense perfectly, intercepts a Bryce Adams pass at the 7-11 yard line.
Let's just approximated the 10-yard line where it was right there.
And, just walks in for a touchdown, and that ends up being the difference maker. Murphy goes for 2 after the first blocked extra point on the following the Kenyon Nichols Brady Grant touchdown pass, and makes it 14-7. And then the Murphy defense does its job. We'll talk about the Murphy more in a minute, but what do you see out of Robbinsville coming into this Andrews game?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be if I'm wearing the black and white and the Black Knight uniform, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder because I'm not taking that. I'm not taking a 14-7 football game, especially because you have. I think you had another score call back.
Yeah, on a questionable holding call.
Right, and so that could have been a Robbinsville football game. On the other hand, it's classic Murphy Robbinsville, but coming out of that, who looked good. I think the person who was looking good going down through the game, and when I say that, I mean each play that unfolded. Roman Jones, one I think you and I talked. I was like, this guy's got to go somewhere and play football. He's got a good build. He's got good ability. And you can tell that some folks wrap around him for leadership. So I was thoroughly impressed about how he was moving the ball. But then, Jake, where was he in the second half? We didn't. It's like the Roman Jones faucet kind of got turned off, and I was looking to see more from him. Again, not taking away from Bryce Adams or Cooper Adams running the ball a bit more, but I was wanting to see. If you're a Robbinsville fan and you're a Robbinsville schemer, then Roman Jones is taking you to the show.
Yeah, I don't understand that game plan. Going away from what was working, what was working Friday night against Murphy was Bryce Adams being able to improvise with his feet. When he did drop back to pass, there was nothing there, or they did that. They called his number, and it was a quarterback run, a designed quarterback run. That was working. Just putting the ball in number 15's stomach and having him, fall forward for 3 yards. That was working. And then, like you said, in the second half, it seemed like they kind of got away from it. Once they got down, they started chasing points. And, they went away from what was working from them.
Well, what was not working for them in that game, and I think when I look back at the notes and you start looking at the play-by-play, also Robbinsville shifted another thing too that didn't work: the passing game. It was just not there. Bryce Adams, 2 of 12, and a couple of interceptions that were, one was costly. But on the other hand, the run game, that was where the bread and butter was coming in, and it was making things happen, especially to the guy who brought you the touchdown. Yeah, you had a series of people, Quinn Jumper and Cooper Adams and Bryce Adams called his own number, actually more times than some of the other, or he got more yards than some of the others. So there were a series of things here that just weren't quite working for the Robbinsville Black Knights. I think but on the other hand, what you were doing and we can unbox this a little bit later, but it put Murphy on the ropes. And going into the halftime, you saw some depressed puppy dogs coming out, but then they revitalized and came back out and worked. But I think that still there were some things that as Robbinsville kind of shifted the scheme a little bit. I wanted to see in that equation Roman Jones. He's taking you there.
Yeah, I think him and Bryce Adams are a heck of a duo, especially when you get Bryce coming around the edge and you're running that option, or you pitch it out to Roman.
Just that one pitch that didn't quite work.
There were two. Well, that wasn't pitch. I'm talking about when they run the option and they speed pitch it like what's his name couldn't ever figure out how to do and remember the Titans. That works good for this Robbinsville team, and handing it off to Roman, and you've got so many other weapons that you need to get utilized. You get number 5, Ledbetter, gets one touch the entire game. He's an explosive guy, a playmaker who's got to have the football in his hands more than that. He equates to me like number 3 for Murphy. Ryan Payne, Darian Ledbetter. You've got to find ways to get your playmakers the ball, and one touch for him isn't going to cut it. You've got to find a way, whether it's putting him back there in the backfield, or jet sweep, or some kind of wildcat or something, and allowing him to make plays. He's too athletic, and he's your big time playmaker. And Robbinsville was one big play away from winning the football game Friday night, but they stumbled down the stretch. Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't quite the. I thought this game was last week, as you remember, if you roll back the tape, I said something like 28-24. Murphy would come out. I thought it'd be a little more high scoring duel that way.
Yeah.
Defense steps up, and this was a hard hitting football game. You and I were, yards away from the action, and leather popping. And yeah, even once or twice there, I think there were some joints and bones popping. Jonah Hedden takes a big hit in this game. Adam Cook from Murphy takes another big hit, and I think maybe once or twice a couple of the Robbinsville Black Knights get shaken up just a little bit. This was, as I said in the preview, this is really the definition of smash mouth football, and that was very real. It was. And I think even some of the mixed bag of fans behind us were playing some smash mouth football.
Yeah, I was about to say there was gums popping as well.
Right. And I was waiting for Donnybrook to break out behind us. Because it wasn't just all Murphy fans behind us or all Robbinsville fans behind us. There's the limited space, so it's kind of like Murphy, Robbinsville, Murphy, Robin, and so they were. But anyhow, it was a neat atmosphere. Anytime you can go to the Big Oaks and do that one, that game, regardless of who wins, you're going to see some exciting times.
Black Knights travel to Valleytown against Andrews. That's going to be smash mouth football. What do you see this final score end up being there? I would not want to be Andrews coming off this Robbinsville spot.
Now, I think this one is definitely going to land up into a Robbinsville win. Robbinsville sitting in third place, and Andrews, by virtue of the record, in second place for the conference. Robbinsville's clawing its ways, trying to get up to the top to upset some things. I think that this one you're going to see some folks shine, and I think could be a big night for just probably lots of different people. And for Robbinsville, I think this one is where you see some things turn the corner, and this one, I believe it's going to be a good Robbinsville game, and I think it'll be like at least 28-13, 28-14 is you might allow that. I'm not even quite sure. The defense did quite well for Robbinsville, and I might amend that and say 28-7 Robbinsville.
I think it depends on what Andrews' team shows up. Do you take the team they took to Bakersville that almost knocked off Mitchell County, or do you see the team that showed up last week against Cherokee? Now, I know they had, they didn't have their quarterback last week. I have no idea whether he's going to be healthy this week or not. But even so, what Andrews team shows up, the one that bowed their neck and won 2-0 against Swain and 7-2 against Hayesville, or the one that gets blown out 27-0 against Cherokee. It just depends on what product you put out on the field. I do think this is a heck of a spot for Robbinsville. They've got to be mad that they lost that game. Very winnable game last week against Murphy in the spot that they were in. 14-7 loss on their home field on senior night. They're going to be coming with a vengeance, I think.
Jake, I'm sorry to interrupt you. When I look back at you played well. You're Andrews. Obviously, you play well with Rosman, 42-14. But once you get past that and get into Hazel, 7-2, it's almost like they were playing with the level of competition, with the exception of Calhoun Falls Charter. But on the other hand, offense hasn't generated since that game that much, and there are different factors like we're talking about. Maybe an injury here, quarterback's out. Swain County, we were saying, is that a soccer or baseball score, 2-0, and then no offensive activity last week, and you kind of wonder what's generating all this. You can't do that going into a game with Robbinsville, whether you're playing in Big Oaks or you're playing in Valleytown or any town. I think that going into this one, there's not going to be that much. If things keep going the way they are, and you really look to your guys to move the ball. Aguilar's got to pick up a few things, and a few other folks in that vein. If you just look at the consistency of the play, I think that that's where I'm kind of basing my theory, because I don't know from exactly what's going to lead up to Friday night game time decision, who plays and who doesn't. So I think that it's going to be relatively low scoring and for Andrews. So I stick with 28-7.
Yeah, I mean, that when Tatham is under center and he's able to, run that offense, run Coach Phillips' offense the way that it's meant to be ran, there is the potential for it to be dangerous. I just don't know if, the way Robbinsville is up front, even if they are healthy, you have to make Robbinsville respect you through the pass. And I don't know if Andrews, has that big, deep downfield play capability to get Robbinsville on their heels. So I think, depending on what Andrews' team shows up, I still think Robbinsville wins, but it depends on how close they make it. They keep it at home for Andrews, depending on which Andrews team shows up and how healthy they are. But I think Yeah, 20, and also depending on how mad Robbinsville is, 28-14, something like that, somewhere around what you said. I think, that it's a good point you made. They have not scored an offensive point since Calhoun Falls Charter. Didn't score against Swain County. They scored because of the safety. Didn't score against Cherokee. So it's time to break that streak and get things rolling for the Wildcats. You've got to come out early, punch Robbinsville in the mouth, and then who knows what can happen. But I think this is going to be a Robbinsville football game on Friday night. But moving on, Murphy hosts Swain County, another good rivalry in the Smoky Mountain Conference. Maroon Devils coming in, licking their wounds just a little bit. We've got an interview with Coach Holt. We'll let him talk first, and then we will preview the game.
Coach Holt, what are your thoughts about the Hazel game?
Well, just some positives. We did better in the penalty game. Only had one penalty, so we cleaned that up from the week before. I thought certain groups played very well. I thought up front we played well. Zeke Gillespie ran the ball very hard. I think he had like 115 or 120 yards rushing. So he had a good night. We just a couple big plays given up on defense that allowed Hazel to get in the end zone, and we just got to learn to finish. When you take the lead, you got to kind of be adamant about how you play and finishing ball games, and then ball security. I think we put the ball on the ground 5 times Friday night and had an interception. So just we got to clean up that stuff that you can't do and win. So it's just another week for us. We've worked hard. We're working hard. Our kids practice hard. We got kids playing hard. It's just we got to make it all come together, and at the right time, and just keep grinding.
But you were there. I mean, you were moving the ball well.
Yeah, we offensively we were able to move the ball a whole lot better than what we have, in recent games, and so it's one of those things where you drive it down to the 10-yard line, and then you have two bad plays in a row. Can't overcome that. We missed 2 field goals that were not long. They were makeable field goals. We thought that we thought our kicker could make those, and we missed them too. And then you add that into putting the ball on the ground. It's hard to overcome a lot of mistakes, and so just trying to limit those mistakes, play very efficient, get better, in all phases of the game, and that's what we're going to try to focus on this week.
Regardless of what has happened so far, you guys have to be getting ready for Murphy.
Yeah, it's the week. That's what we call it around here, is the week. Mm-hmm. And so anytime Swain plays Murphy, I think you throw the records out the window. I think you better come ready on both sides. I mean, no matter what standpoint or situation you're in, there's a lot of tradition, a lot of heritage in this game, and it's an exciting week for, I think, both Maroon Devils and Murphy Bulldogs. I think Joseph Watson does a real good job over there. I have a lot of respect for him. He's going to have his kids ready to play, and we're going to go get our kids ready to play for a good night.
Go Maroon Devils.
Go Devils.
Well,
a lot of good insight from Coach Holt. He talked about how important this football game is to both schools, especially, coming to the back end of the season here. This has been a game, that's gone back and forth. 2 historic programs in the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And it's, like he said, throw the records out the window. It doesn't matter. It's good old-fashioned hate when Swain and Murphy take the field on Friday night.
Well, I don't know that I would. It is. It's a grudge match. If we were WWE, I'd put this ball game in a cage. But yeah. Seriously, looking back at just before we grind out what's going into this game and who's playing what, because obviously the players on both sides. But just looking historically, I always like to look at this. And Toby Burrell from Swain County and I he's put together a nice encyclopedia of, he can tell you how many times a player from 1975 ate a bologna and cheese sandwich in his encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But he's got all kinds of data. But what I have so far, Jake, this is it's almost the 80th meeting between these two teams. Murphy has won 39 times, according to my records, and Swain has won 39 times. The average score between these two teams, Murphy, 9.5 points to Swain County's 19 points. Over the last 10 years, Murphy has won 7 of the last 10 meetings. 3, of course, last year, the wheels fell off for Murphy at playing at Swain County. It was 37-13 Maroon Devils win. But with the exception of 2020, that was a carry away for Murphy winning 39-7 and 49-7 in 2018. But playing this one's always a relatively low scoring, or at least it's not low scoring, but it's very close to one another. You can feel the friction off both sides rolling into this one. So that's just a little bit of insight. But it's really neat to look back. This team, especially through the mid 70s into the mid 80s, they were almost guaranteed to play each other twice. And so there are a lot more games played here between these two teams historically, except for the last couple of years, that it's been more typical for a Murphy team to face Robbinsville or a Swain team to face Robbinsville into the state playoffs. But that's just my little 2 bits of history. Now let's get to present day and find out, because both coaches, Joseph Watson and Sherman Holt, will tell you, like, well, I'll throw the records out the window. Yeah, they're 0 and we're 5-1, 6-1. There's 0-6, 0-5. However you want to break it out. They're in last place. We're in first place. This is where I think you do everything you can to win this football game, and you eat all your Wheaties, do everything right, and this is a different football game, and it historically has just been that dramatic. So let's play it out for a second. I didn't know. So looking at this, the football game. That you've got some key injuries, Jake. That's one of the big things here that that Swain County has been really wrestling with, making sure that we've got good control of the ball. That's the big key here is, like in the last football game, can't have 5 turnovers. Can't do that against Murphy. You can't have big plays that get you down into the end zone or near the end zone. Have some things backed up and take some possibilities of getting points on the board. Can't do that. But the one big thing that if I was to really worry about this, about Swain County, looking at it through a Murphy's offense to their defense, the defenders are big and gritty. Grady Lewis is one of the biggest and best players that they have. Insay Ufert still really he commands the line quite a bit. When I look down through this whole this whole setup, that's going to be the biggest piece here. That I think that first, number one, coming away, Insay, Cisneros, Drew Skaggs, Grady, a couple of those folks across the middle of the line. Some of your best players. 265, 256. This is a huge line, and Aiden Smiley is also one of the bigger players. I really I'd rather run through Hades with gas on my pants and try to run through this line.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part for me that Murphy's going to have to do to win this football game, which piggybacking off of your line part, not necessarily running through it, but Murphy's got to find a way to pass the ball efficiently, and like I
Yes.
mentioned earlier, put the ball in number 3's hands. And that this line of Swain County is not going to make it easy for Brady Grant to do that. But if you're Murphy, you still, even though you are, even though you've only lost one game and it was first game of the year, still probably haven't played. You still probably haven't played 4 quarters of good football so far this year. I think you and I talked about it, Brandon. I don't think we're yet to see Murphy's best game so far. They can't seem to get the passing game and the running game and the defense all to cooperate, and special teams. All phases of the game to cooperate and click together. In one game. And if you're Swain, obviously that hasn't happened for you yet either. So it seems like Swain is just waiting on something to click, and every Murphy fan you talk to this week has said, they're not looking forward to playing this game. Doesn't matter how many wins are etched beside the Maroon Devils' name, because it just takes one thing to click, hit into place, and then Swain County's right back on track. I think they've got the right coach for the job. But on the flip side of that, like I was saying, it just takes one thing for Murphy to click, everything falls into place, and they played their best game of the year, and it might not be pretty on Friday night.
Well, speaking of that, I think you're exactly right. I think Coach Holt coming into Swain County a few years ago, I had a few ideas of kind of switching up some offensive schemes when everybody knows they run the veer, and you've got to this is the way we do it, and this is the way we've always done it. It happens to go out. And I remember when we were seeing Boyce Dietz and David Gentry being inducted into the Hall of Fame, North Carolina High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Folks sitting around the table with Coach Holt were like, "What kind of offense do you run?" We've run the veer in Swain County, but I think the whole crew there, you've got some college caliber coaches that are really But when you're working with less than what you've had because of injuries, and there are 4 key players that are out here, but then there are also other folks who are got the nagging injuries. Injuries have slowed you down and put the brakes on Swain County. But
even Brandon, the ones that are on the field, they're playing a spot that they're not used to playing because they're making up for those injuries.
Well, that was going to be my next point, and exactly, you've had to move all the folks around on the chessboard to get this one to work up, but then also not just that. All right, I'm Grady Lewis. I was playing linebacker. Now I'm in the offensive backfield running football, and I'm trying to get used to it, but then I get shifted back. So it's not like you had time to go in and steep. So you're pulsing back and forth, and in business, that's not one thing that you want to do. Is you want to stay in one station and shine, and do that. And I think that carries through in football. On the other hand, that has also been kind of the case for the Murphy Bulldogs. In certain cases, like Kenyon Nichols had the touchdown pass reception at Robbinsville, but he hasn't been there in and out. I think Camden Brazil has stepped in to play tight end. That's just one example. Jonah Hedden going out. You've had to push Cadence Leatherwood into take him off the guard position and put him into fullback. But he did that growing up and coming up playing football. He's ran the ball. It's not something uncommon. That's maybe the little small difference. The next man up for Murphy may not necessarily, and you can hear some folks, Camden Brazil, say, "I don't like playing tight end. I want to be in defense because I want to hit somebody, and I want and running the football." So that kind of takes a little bit one of the arrows out of your quiver. But now Murphy also has had its chores with getting through it, and I think that in your comment about 4 quarters of football, the only game that I can point to say, well, the Murphy Bulldogs came close to doing that was with the Hayesville game. But therein, that was Murphy was in control all the way down. and it allowed some. It was neat to see defense come in. Charlie Graves stripped the ball. Aiden Williams get the interception, the pick six. Okay, that was cool. But you also had the balance of the offense scoring. This past week, not so much. Offense was really trying to, find its place and struggling a bit from here and there. A couple of, some interceptions and turnovers for the Bulldogs, which not a good thing. And
I think the offense struggled because it piggybacked off of the Hayesville game. Sure, you had Jonah Head and Cameron Clem who were running the ball well, and they scored. Clem had 2 touchdowns, and I think Wade Heron got in for a touchdown at the very end.
Right.
But still, offensively, you go 4 for 10 for 51 yards in the passing game, and then you turn around the next week against Robbinsville, and it's kind of much of the same. You got to find a way to put that passing game together and figure out how to beat teams through the air, as well as rely on Clem and Hedden, because you don't know if Hedden's going to be back there. You don't know if you're going to have Cadence playing linebacker and moving back into the backfield. You don't know if your JV kids are coming up. So there's a lot of question marks surrounding this game from both teams. Man, when I think about Swain, though, think about the James Baldwin quote: "Most dangerous creation of any society is a man who has nothing to lose," and by God, Swain ain't got nothing to lose coming into this game Friday night. So I think we're going to see a dogfight.
I say, because I can see the time is rolling out on us. I still you're playing in Murphy, and that's for Swain to move over. It's a couple of years ago. I remember, we were. It was a dogfight, and it was the last time. And Lillard, injured. It's going to be another smash mouth football game, definitely. I mean, yeah, we mentioned the 4 that are out, but still the guys that are there, they're big, they're vicious in the trenches. You're going to see some people hitting you. Whether you're a Bulldog or a Maroon Devil. I still look at this one I'll based on some history, based on some drama and passion, Murphy 21-7.
I think it's a little closer. I think it's 21-13. I think Murphy wins, but this game's always close. I think Murphy has the capability to come out and make this a 35-6 football game. Just depends, they're so banged up, and they just came off, emotionally, this could be a letdown spot after everything you just poured out onto the field Friday night against Robbinsville. Then you come back, you host Swain, really screwy what the schedule makers did to Murphy. Ended up with Robbinsville and Swain back-to-back weeks. But
I will say this. I wouldn't be surprised if we say, 21-7 Murphy wins this, but I wouldn't be surprised if going into this game, maybe at the end of the first quarter or midway through the second quarter, you look up at the scoreboard and it's 7 or 6-3 Swain County leading or something like that. Just depending. And again, Murphy has, obviously Jonah Hedden went out and they're checking his knee, MCL, ACL. All that good stuff, but a bunch of other nagging injuries that are going around to different folks, and it. So I think, like, depending, get your mind right, get fixed up, and this one I think could be another Murphy win, depending.
I say it like I did last week. Murphy should win this football game, and I do think they will. They have the firepower to make this, a game where we're not tied up going into the fourth quarter. A game where you're not sweating it down the stretch. But Swain County, you never know what's going to happen on a Friday night when Swain County and Murphy take the field. So.
The only thing you can count on is just, it's going to be hard hitting.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for us this week. Same time, same place next Thursday. Brandon, as always, thank you. This has been week 8 of Inside Smoky Mountain Conference.